Both surprised and disappointed, because those types of things really are the purview of the CDC. This is a public health issue. And for a court to come in, and if you look at the rationale for that, it really is not particularly firm. And we are concerned about that, about courts getting involved in things that are unequivocally public health decisions. I mean, this is a CDC issue. It should not have been a court issue. So we're hoping that the inevitable increase in cases which we're seeing are not going to be associated with an increase in hospitalizations. So
this is Paul Amendment number 2. This amendment would eliminate the position of Director of the National Institute of Allergic and Infectious Diseases and divide the responsibilities into 3 separate directors for allergic diseases, infectious diseases, and immunologic diseases. Each of these directors would then be approvable by the Senate. Advances in science often happen when we question conventional wisdom. History gives us too many examples of what happens when people in power make scientists bend to dogma. At the end of his life, Galileo was kept under lock and key just for telling a scientific truth that people in power, the government, didn't want to hear. Luckily, we don't have the Inquisition anymore, but we do have scientific elites who don't want their opinions to be questioned. A good example of this was the emails revealed between Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins, where they talked about taking down their political opponents, having an enemies list, and trying to squash opinions they disagreed with. This is not the role of someone in government. This is a role of someone who needs to be separated from government.
So all of these dynamic things going on at the same time, it was perfectly logical for the CDC to say, wait a minute, we were planning on ending this mandate on a certain date. Let's wait a period of time until May 3rd, which was a very sound public health decision. So for a court to come in and interfere in that is really unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it's against public health principles, number one. And number two is because that's no place for the courts to do that. This is a CDC decision, and that's very bad precedent when you have courts making a decision and looking at what the basis of the decision was. It was not sound. If you see the level coming down really, really very low, I want it to keep going down to a baseline that's so low that there's virtually no threat, or not no, it'll never be zero, but a minimal threat that you will be exposed to someone who is infected. When it goes way down and the overwhelming majority of the people in the population are vaccinated, then I would feel comfortable in saying, you know, we need to pull back on the masks. It may or may not be precisely the way it was in November of 2019, but it'll be much, much better than what we're doing right now.
I would like to know how we can control the behavior of people in foreign countries when we can't control the behavior in our own country.
Yeah, I think you used an important word that really illustrates the difficulty of the problem. You can't control people's behavior, but what you can do is you can educate and you can try to modify behavior. Our experience tells us very clearly that the only way that you can do that effectively is to create an environment in which you don't force people who are the subjects or the targets of your education and behavioral modification. If you force them underground, if you make your education in an environment of oppressiveness, you're not going to get to the people that you need to get to. You've got to create a situation where people understand that they're not going to be stigmatized, that they're not going to lose their human rights when they find out that they're infected, that you're going to do something to help them. You see more and more people coming in, getting the education, and ultimately modifying their behavior. We have already seen that in spades in this country, and that's the environment that we are suggesting to our colleagues overseas to do.